Maybe just with Ms. Filippi, if you want to just continue, could you give us the second and third recommendations just quickly here? Because you got cut off there.
Okay. So I won't go into great detail. I'll just give you the recommendations and not the background.
Thank you.
So we recommend the collection of disaggregated data by race, ethnicity, faith, as well as gender and other demographic factors on which IRCC currently collects data. The third recommendation is we recommend an independent review and ongoing oversight of IRCC's Chinook system and any future AI or technology used for pre-screening and processing, as well as full sharing of these case processing data disaggregated by race, ethnicity, and faith, as well as other demographics currently collected by IRCC. And the last two is the anti-racism training and gender with a gender-based lens be mandatory for all employees, and establishment of an independent, adequately resourced ombudsperson office for IRCC, and anti-racism legislation for Canada, which would give Anti-Racism Secretariat a legislative foundation and strengthen its work as well as part of the Act, subject all government legislation and regulations to a racial equity review, similar to what was undertaken under the Gender Budgeting Act of 2018.
Thank you. Just want to continue with you on the issue of family, because I know in my own writing we've often had cases where people aren't able to reunite their families, and it can be a very stressful thing. Are you seeing some trends there, in terms of genuineness of the relationship? What are the factors that are used? Can you comment more on that?
Well, I think, where we're working with families bringing in children primarily, or their parents or grandparents, it becomes really difficult. The process for applying, asking for additional requirements for the DNA testing, security clearances, and if children are nearing the age of when they're no longer going to be considered a dependent, then that becomes an additional problem for the family. If they don't start soon enough within the process, and it takes a long time given all the hurdles and barriers that they have to overcome, then they outgrow. They have to come as independent, and families are despondent by that whole process.
So
it
just
very difficult.
Those things are sort of typical of all. But have you seen any? Can you point to any racism in that? Like, are there certain countries?
I think you're talking about which countries where that comes under. Certainly, if you're asking for DNA data, we're talking about here proof of from African countries. That's another issue. We have Somali clients who have to provide proof of their being their children. We're seeing it. We saw a little bit of it under the with the Syrian refugees, but not too many. I'm not sure if the situation is similar with the Afghan refugees that are coming in right now. They're highly scrutinized. Women coming from India, proof of relationship in their marriage. These are racialized women now, and you have Muslim women now having to provide information about the sexual nature of their relationship with their spouses, and that's not something that people are comfortable talking about. And of course, that's why that's happening with a certain racial communities, and we're seeing that happening more and more often.
Right.
The concern is our clients, if they don't start soon enough in that process, their children will outgrow the time become independent.
One of the other things that I've witnessed in my writing too is when the IRCC makes decisions about a client, about a person, then it's often the CBSA that has to enforce that. And I've had issues in my riding of Saskatoon West where I had to intervene with a minister to stop the deportation of a Ugandan man that because of he was a refugee fleeing because he was gay, and it seems like the CBSA only saw a black person. Can you correlate racism to some of the actions that are then taken by the CBSA?
Well, certainly. I think it's inherent in the fact that, we've heard that, these groups are just trying to scam the system, or liars. They're trying to jump the queue. We've heard comments such as this. And it becomes problematic when we're dealing with certain officers within certain regions, within Ontario, and trying to get them to overcome those bias issues that they have, that they bring with them. And yes, these becomes problematic. It's not just one point of the system, it's somehow within the whole gamut of the system where things become problematic, and differential treatment doesn't start just in one place and stops at another level, that it goes right through the system. And we're seeing that happen. And when you have people then getting lawyers, it becomes an expensive process for Canada. They often lose. I can talk about certainly the AI example, that they lose their cases, and it becomes very expensive to administer that, and having to overturn and going through the court system and so on. But it's also expensive for the client. And the concern is, yes, why are certain groups being asked certain levels of questions throughout the whole system and not others?
To Ms. Svieger, on the, I noticed that you have a Filipino program in your organization, and we, of course, have a big Filipino community in my riding. And I had a case where there was a woman with terminal breast cancer who ended up getting deported because she was trying to seek sanctuary, but she wasn't. Have you had experiences with this as well, deportation and racism going together?
Yeah, absolutely. Through many of our clients, Filipino community has been very unique in terms of trepidations and concerns of being engaged with any kind of social systems and certainly government supports because of their inherent experiences with the system. So it has been our primary focus of the Filipino program is to work with the school boards in Calgary and the Filipino community, including faith establishment, to ensure the
Sorry
comfort.
for interrupting. Your time is up, Ms. Svieger.